I welcome you all with my love and respects. God.com. Interesting topic. Let me tell you how this topic came. I was dictating titles for discourses. In between, I was speaking with my acharyas, group of people in India. I was telling them, anything you wanted to make it universal, you just bring it in the website. It will reach the whole world. It will reach the whole world. It will become universal. See, the passion, as long as it is directed towards one person, it is passion. Anything you want to make it universal, just add .com. Immediately it will reach the whole universe. Adding .com is the way to reach the whole universe. Same way, the passion, when it is directed towards one person, it's a passion. If you just add .com and make it towards the whole world, it becomes compassion. Passion, just add .com and let it be towards the whole world. As long as it is aimed towards one person, it is passion. When you just allow that to spread all over the world, when it touches the whole world, it becomes compassion. Then one of the Acharya commented, Swami, then why don't you speak God.com? I said, all right, I'll speak. Then they added this as one more title. For this site, the browse center is the browsing center. Anya Chakra, the browse center. We have so many energy centers in our body. The browse center is, we call it Anya Chakra. That is the browsing center to enter into this site. Of course, the prerequisite is open mind. If you go to our website, it will say this website needs Macromedia Flash and an open mind. Same way, this site also needs an open mind. See, one important thing you should understand, people always think that this site needs faith or a belief as a prerequisite. No. This site does not need faith or a belief or a prerequisite. No. All this site needs is courage and open mind. Courage to explore and open mind to enter. That's more than enough to experience God. That's a beautiful saying. To experience God, you don't have to believe in God. Believing in God is different. Experiencing God is totally different. God is such a vast subject. You can speak anything and connect to it. You can speak anything and connect to it. Today I thought we'll do a small change. Always I only speak continuously. And then answer your questions. Today you can start your questions. From that I'll come to the subject. You can put any question. I'll bring the whole thing to this one subject. Because all your questions, see, all our questions, let me say a few words about our questions. Krishna says beautifully in the Gita. Arjuna asks, Kim tat brahma kimatyatmam kim karma purushottama. He goes on with some 7 questions. Krishna says, if you are really interested in answer, you would have stopped him after the first question. If you are just continuously putting questions, means you are not really interested in answer. Just you wanted to vomit. Just you wanted to express. What do you want to express? That's all. I tell you, I have seen many people. They come to me, they ask me, Swamiji, please show me the way to God. Tell me how to achieve God. And usually I don't answer it immediately. I start talking about something. How are you? What you are doing? Where you are from where? And they start answering. The conversation slowly drifts away and goes to some other subject. After that, they will spend more than 3-4 hours with me. They will not even remember the question again. They will not even ask me once more about the question. Then understand the intensity of the question. Understand the intensity of the question. Most of our questions are just superficial. Just superficial. If it is superficial, you don't need actually answer. You just want some consolation. Superficial questions are asked for two reasons. One, to show that you know something in that subject, or just to have some consolation. That is what I call superficial questions. And the real sincere questions always can be connected to God, to the divine. So come out. Whatever is your question, you can come out. Then I'll elaborate on this same subject. Let's start today a discussion. Instead of the same type of lecture and question answer, today we'll have some discussion on this one subject. You are welcome. Yes.
Why did Mayor Baba quit speaking, do you think?
Oh, that's a nice question. I think he must have been a very intelligent person. I think he learned the lesson. Teaching through words is not going to work. I am yet to learn that lesson. I think, to tell you honestly, I am yet to learn that lesson. Maybe he learned that lesson. He is a very intelligent person. He must have learned it just by one or two incidences. And I tell you, not usually, this is the truth. Whatever I say, these people use their own dictionary to make meaning. Words are mine, dictionary is yours. How do you think what I say will be conveyed? That's a beautiful Zen story. One disciple goes to Zen master and asks, Master, do enlightened people speak? Do they preach? Master says, no. Person who knows will never open his mouth. The person who has become enlightened will never open his mouth. And he asks, then what do you mean? They don't speak. Then do you mean they will keep quiet? They will be in silence? Again Master says, no. They can never be in silence. How do you think an enlightened man can be in silence? The person who knows will never keep quiet. Just like you are, the disciple got confused. Asked, what do you mean? You say he will neither speak nor keep quiet. Then what he will do? Master says beautifully, he will sing. His very being will radiate. His very being will radiate the truth. He can neither be in a dead silence, or he can't speak. See, all speaking is restlessness. When a master speaks, he never speaks. There's a beautiful Zen koan. If you are listening my words, if I am listening to your words, the Zen is lost. Zen is lost. When a master speaks, really he never speaks. Somebody goes to Nisargadatta Maharaj. He's a great enlightened mystic. As master, you say the enlightened people don't have karma. Then how are you talking? If you don't have karma, how are you working? Nisargadatta Maharaj says, no, I am not doing anything. And the disciple asks, you are talking with me, how are you talking with me? Maharaj says, no, I am not talking to you. He's talking and he says, I am not talking to you. The disciple got confused. He says, what are you saying? You are talking and you say you are not talking. Nisargadatta Maharaj says, even though it is difficult to believe, you see me talking because you want me talking. You want me to talk. That's the reason you see me talking. Otherwise, the talking is not happening in me. Just because of your need, you create the wave and see. You project the wave and see. It looks too much. Actually, I was also not able to understand before my enlightenment. Only after I became enlightened, I understood what Nisargadatta Maharaj says. He is not speaking. And Buddha makes a statement. Somebody asks him, Buddha, last 40 years you taught, you continuously spoke. Should we not collect all your teachings and make a book? Buddha says, well, I spoke. 40 years ago I stopped speaking. What are we talking? Before my enlightenment, whatever I spoke, it is not worth recording. Forget about it. After my enlightenment, I never spoke. Then again, you don't have to record anything. What you are going to record? And it is very difficult to relate or express anything through words. If at all you think I am speaking, you are using your dictionary. You are using your dictionary. When you use your dictionary for my words, naturally we will end up only in misunderstanding, miserable misunderstanding. So I think Meher Baba understood. Meher Baba understood. After some time, he must have had a very good disciples. He understood. Talking will not work. Talking is not going to help. And I tell you one thing honestly, whatever I want to convey, it can be conveyed much more clear way, much more pure way, much more beautiful way, just by silence. The difficulty is, in the initial level, if I start speaking, you will start talking within yourself. If I stop speaking, you will start talking within yourself. So somehow I have to make you stop talking. That is why continuously I am speaking. Maybe he understood. He is one of the greatest enlightened masters. Enlightened master. The India is gifted to the world. India is still alive because it continuously produces enlightened masters. Otherwise, I don't think India will survive. When India stops producing enlightened masters, the whole culture will die, the whole country will die. India is alive just because it produces enlightened masters. Every society contributes something to the humanity, to the universe. India's contribution is enlightened masters. This Meher Baba is one of the wonderful contribution to the humanity from Bharat Mata. Yes.
Can you talk about Vipassana meditation?
In India, two traditions are created. The whole religion, not only in India, all over the world, all the religion or spirituality can be classified under two categories. One is Upasana, another one is Vipassana. Over. Upasana means worshipping God. Vipassana means experiencing God. Upasana is worshipping God. All the religions of the world, all the spiritual groups of the world, all the, whatever you call the religion, spirituality, or all over the world, whatever is invented, discovered, written in the name of religion and spirituality can be classified under these two titles, Upasana and Vipassana. Upasana means sitting with divine. Vipassana means entering into divine or becoming divine. Upasana means worshipping the God. All the Dvaita religion, dualistic religion, comes under the category of Upasana. all the non-dualistic religion, Advaitic religion, are the religions which gives a spiritual experience, which is a religion which emphasizes on the spiritual experience. All of them come under Vipassana. And Buddha is the greatest master, I can say. Not only he became enlightened, he created a foolproof system, complete foolproof system through which thousands of people can reach the enlightenment. Vipassana is one of the simple, straightforward technique. Straight away you can reach enlightenment. I can say Vipassana is the straight to the point of enlightenment. No wastage of time, no wastage of energy, no wastage of anything else. But only one thing, little difficult to start. Except that one problem, Vipassana has got all the positive qualities. All the positive qualities. And it is the best technique. If at all you get the glimpse of the divine by Vipassana, that's the right technique. I think that's the best technique to reach the divine. The planet Earth, if 10,000 people have become enlightened, means at least 9,500 people have become enlightened just by Vipassana is the technique which I practiced at the end of my journey. When I slipped out of my mind, I landed in the Vipassana technique. Only then I slipped into that mindless state or whatever you call experience. I promote the technique in a very higher level meditation camps. In the initial level meditation camps, I don't give the technique because for ancient man, in that age, in the Buddha's age, man can practice directly Vipassana because he was pure. In the modern times, something new called cerebral layer has happened to human beings. Cerebral layer means enjoying through the mind or suppressing your desires. With these suppressions, if you start practicing Vipassana, the whole thing will get aggravated and you will not be able to really practice it. So first I prefer catharsis. Let you vomit everything out. The initial level meditation camps, I always emphasize on catharsis. Then in the second level or third level, enter into the Vipassana. I've seen people doing Vipassana with this suppression. They end up in a lot of complications and trouble. So don't start Vipassana in the initial level. Always start with catharsis. Throughout, vomit out the suppressions and repressions. Always start active meditations in the beginning. Once you start experiencing silence, then enter into Vipassana. Then Vipassana is a straight cut. If you start with Vipassana, there is problem of facing your own suppressions and sleeplessness, all these type of side effects. That's the reason I don't promote Vipassana straight away. But in our higher level camps, higher level programs, I emphasize only on Vipassana. In our ashram, we do the higher level meditation camps. People just sit for 18 hours. And it is not that they are asked to sit. It is not, they are not forced to sit. I tell them the first thought when they get to move away, get up, they should open their eyes and get up. Till then they can sit. They sit just for 18 hours in the ecstasy. Because before itself we do the catharsis. They finish, they vomit everything. Nothing is suppressed. There is no suppression inside. Once you finish vomiting, naturally you sit in that Vipassana for 18 to 20 hours. We do a program called Atmaspurana, 4 days program, which is then after these 2 days weekend workshop. Tomorrow we are having a weekend workshop, Nityananda Spurana. In this we work layer by layer on your 7 etheric layers, 7 bodies. In this we concentrate more on the catharsis and cleansing. Then naturally you can enter into the Vipassana. And a very simple way to enter into Vipassana is start becoming aware of your thoughts, your inhaling, exhaling breath, and your Manipuraga movement of your Manipuraga chakra, navel center. This three is the very simple technique. But again, even though it looks like very simple, when you do it, you will understand. It's very strong and powerful technique.
How does karma affect receiving? When you receive the meditation technique or something, that's our karma.
Meditation techniques just destroy karmas. Karma is nothing but your mental setup. Karma is nothing but your mental setup. I tell you, meditation techniques destroys karmas. That's why they say, getting initiated into meditation technique is new birth. There's a beautiful aphorism, sutra. Brahma, with all his effort, he sits and goes on, writes your karma on your head. Brahma is supposed to be the creator. He writes and sends you to the planet Earth. Guru, just when he walks casually, he erases the whole thing with his left leg. He wipes away the whole thing with his left leg. It's not a story, it's a truth. When you are initiated into the meditation, you enter into a new life. Your whole life is new. You are no more an old person. The whole karma can be burnt away just by this meditation. Not even practicing meditation, very initiation burns away. I am not telling stories, please be very clear. I am not telling fairy tale. What I take a oath, whatever I am speaking is truth. Nothing but truth. A right master. Just an initiation is enough. Your whole lifestyle will change. Your whole life will be transformed. Your outlook, your thinking setup, your way in which you react, the way in which you handle the life, the way in which you handle the situations, the way in which you handle your life, your perception about yourself, your perception about the life, everything will change. That is what we mean. When a real master touches your life, the whole life is transformed. If it is not, he is not a real master. Be very clear, he is not a real master. So the initiation into meditation surely transforms your whole outlook about yourself and about the world. Next.
When items are magnetized with the master's energy, does that stay forever, or does it have to be recharged 10 years later or something?
Items are magnetized by the master's energy. Does that stay forever?
Oh, energized. When things are energized, yes, it stays forever. There is nothing like recharge. See, in the field of meditation, there is nothing like recharge. And one thing I tell you, when a cloth is energized by master, even if it is burnt, that ash will add that energy. Because the energy goes to much deeper level than what you can see. What you can see. That is why when enlightened master's body, if it is burnt, even an ash will carry that energy. Even the ash will carry that energy. So surely when it is energized by masters, it stays forever. The other day we got a machine which measures the aura and energy. I don't know how these guys made this machine, but it's very wonderful machine. One of our devotees, he brought it. And you'll be surprised. It really does a good job. And it reads the person's auras and gives clear idea about the personality, not one, two. We studied with so many persons and it do really works. I was really surprised. How can they objectify the whole thing? It's simply impossible. At least from a mystical point of view, I was not able to understand how could they objectify, how could they quantify the experience, but they are successful in doing it. I don't know how, based on which science it works, but it works. That much I was able to say. And this guy did a research. He told somebody to put his hand on that machine. The machine showed the chakras and the strength of aura and all those things. Maybe that based on bioenergy, there's something. This guy took a mala of our mala, energized mala, and he showed it near some chakra. Immediately the machine started showing the chakra expanding. And he just moved that mala to some other chakra. Immediately the other chakra started expanding. And it looks very funny. I thought, what is this? How can this happen? I was not ready to believe. Then he brought the machine and he showed the live demo in front of me. And it really works. But still I am not able to understand how this machine works. Because from a mystical point of view, you can never measure these qualities with the outside machine. You can say what happens in the brain, what happens in your system, all these things can be measured. But the very aura itself, I don't know how they are measuring. I know there is one system, Kirlian photography. Kirlian photography, that is a solid system to measure the aura, to get an idea about aura. But these guys have managed some, what is that machine name? Aura ready. I'll tell them to, I think they have a brochure about that machine, you can see that. Today also he was showing something on that machine to me. It really, something wonderful. After seeing that machine I was shocked, how could they objectify everything? Of course in this country anything is possible, we don't know. They'll do anything. So you don't have to recharge the products which once you are energized, that's enough.
Swamiji, what's the difference between an avatar and self-realized master?
It is just one and the same, just a different trademark.
Sorry, what's the question? Can you?
What is the difference between avatar and the self-realized master? Surely one and the same, I tell you. There is no difference, just trademark. Just trademark means, see, these are all just titles. Technically, there is no difference. When Shankara says Purna, Atman, Brahman, and when Buddha says Shunya, Anatta, nothing, both are one and the same. In experience wise, that and this both are one and the same. But different trademark, that's all. Different name, that's all. So avatar, self-realized master, and what to say that Paramahamsa, all these titles are different titles, surely one and the same experience. The problem is when we have some new title, we don't want to let go. Something strong, somewhere we wanted to claim. You see, the difficulty is never the avatars and enlightened masters fight, but this avatar's disciple and enlightened master's disciple always fight. Rama and Krishna will never fight. When they see each other, they will hug each other. But this Rama's monkeys and Krishna's cows, they will always fight. They will always fight. Same way, when you have some new title, when you have some new topic, new name, you want just to fight. And one more thing, listen. It is just our ego projection. Straight away you can't say you are great. So naturally, it looks too egoistic. Naturally we say, my country is great. My language is great. My race is great. My culture is great. Same way you add one more word, my Swami is great. These are all just ego clash. Nothing but the ego clash created by these foolish disciples. Yesterday I was talking about disciples. Same thing. The unconscious disciples, they create all these titles. They create all these standards. In the enlightenment experience, it is one and the same. Avatar, enlightened master, enlightened mystic, self-realized soul, Paramahamsa, Jnani, Bhagavan, all these words are one and the same. Just different trademarks. Once a person experiences, it is one and the same. Expression may differ from place to place. For a different culture, different expression. For a different place, different expression. But surely, it is one and the same. So, in the experience wise or in energy wise, there is no difference between avatar, enlightened master, self-realized soul and all these things. But usually these people, just to project their ego, they will always say, my Swami is great. My Swami is great. My master is great.
Could it
Am
be
I?
loyal? Could it be loyal part of the
A
disciple?
person who is really loyal will never say that my Swami is great. He will feel and he will never go around and say. You understand? It's a pure ego. Pure ego. Because you can't say you are great. It looks too egoistic. That is the reason we go around saying, mine is great, mine is great, mine is great. If at all you are really feeling, why do you want to preach? Why do you want to say? The moment you want to say, some part of you is not convinced. So you are expressing so that you can be convinced. I tell you, all preaching happens if you are not convinced about it. When we are not completely convinced, by converting others we get convinced. These are very subtle things, deep level things, but the truth. And a real loyal person will experience it and he will never even bother to compare. See, a rose is a rose is a rose. You don't have to compare with a lotus. A person who feels my master is greatest person will never even compare. You don't need the word greatest. My master is my master. Over. Why do you need the word greatest? Means what? You are already looking. You are doing window shopping. Only when you do window shopping you need the word greatest. You need the word best. You need the word, all these big words. Why? When you do window shopping. When you are really convinced, when you are really loyal, you will never even bother about the word greatest. You will never even bother with the word greatest. It is all just titles. And these unconscious disciples, they start, master's main message is drop your ego, and they start creating more ego based on masters. In my case also I have seen this senior disciples going and dragging the junior disciples. You know, I was with Swamiji for last 2 years. I know what Swamiji eats. I know what Swamiji does. Don't do that. Do this. Controlling the junior disciples. I tell these junior disciples, if at all somebody comes and tells you all these things, just spit on their face and tell them, even after 2 years living with Master, you have not become enlightened. It is shame upon you. You have not become enlightened even after staying 2 years with him. Never go out and tell that you stayed with Swamiji for the last 2 years. It is defaming Swamiji, defaming his name. I always tell people, never go out and tell you are a senior person. If you are going out and telling means what? Still you will not become enlightened. If you are enlightened, surely you will not boast. If you are boasting, you are not enlightened. Still you will not become enlightened. It is defaming me. Even after staying so many years with me, you will not become enlightened means it is defaming me. Never go out and tell. These are all just ego games, ego clashes. That is the reason I dropped all my titles. Earlier, my name used to be very big, Paramahamsa Sri Nityananda Swamigal. Then I dropped slowly the Swamigal. Now slowly I dropped the Paramahamsa also. In our latest books, slowly I told them to drop all this title. Because this title is nothing but nonsense. These guys, all I am telling is drop ego. They create one more ego based on the association with me. So it all leads to more and more drama only. That's the reason. Told them drop that also. Just have Nityananda, that's enough. Of course that also can't be dropped. We need some name to address. It's all just ego clash. Yes.
One question.